Wisconsin Democratic primary going on. We got Hong, who is running, who is now, in my opinion, the clear favorite to win that Democratic nomination. She's a Democratic socialist. Her chances up like a rocket. On June 30th, it was just 41%. Now a 96% chance to be the Democratic nominee in Wisconsin, a Democratic socialist, according to the cash prediction markets. So this is not just happening now in New York, Philadelphia, Denver. It looks to me like it's going to be happening in a place like Wisconsin, which of course is a very purple state.
I just want to be clear. Does this mean that you no longer believe in the goal of defunding and ultimately abolishing the police that you posted about 5 years ago?
I believe that safety is a human right, that I'm going to be a governor that is more serious about public safety than any other governor, and I'm willing to work with community organizers, faith leaders, local governments where many of our public safety systems are funded.
What's up, family? So before we get into it, hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and check this out. You already know what time it is. So we got a clip going around of this Democrat candidate, and I ain't even going to front. This one is wild. She sat down for a Fox interview thinking she was going to get a friendly platform to sell her message, and instead walked into a brick wall made of her own recorded words. And I'm talking about the kind of self-own that makes you wonder if campaigns even have people watching their own candidates' past interviews before sending them out in the public. Because when you sit down for an interview and a reporter pulls up a clip of you saying the exact opposite of what you are now claiming, that's not a gaffe, that's a collapse, right? That's a campaign detonating on live television, right? And the craziest part, she didn't even realize she was the one holding the detonator. So we're going to break this down, look at the different perspectives, and then I'll give my thoughts. So let's get into it. This Democrat candidate, here's what happened. And I want you to pay attention to the language here, because she went on Fox News, which for a lot of Democrats is already walking into enemy territory. But she went voluntarily. Nobody dragged her. Nobody put a gun to her head. She accepted the booking, sat down in a chair, looked at the host in the eye, and started talking about how she's one for the working class. She's the one. How she's fighting for everyday Americans. How her policies are about helping regular people get ahead. Classic campaign trail talk, right? Nothing new. But when the host did something that apparently her team didn't prepare her for, the host said, "That's interesting, because here's what you said 6 months ago." And they played the clip. And in that clip, she said the complete opposite. I mean, not a little different. Not I've evolved on the issue. Not my position has matured. No. She said the exact opposite. She said the thing she's now running against, and she endorsed the position she's now pretending to fight. And the look on her face when that clip started playing, that's the face of somebody who forgot that everything is recorded forever. And the internet is forever. And that's the face of somebody who thought the internet had a delete button. And from my perspective, that right there is the problem with a lot of political candidates in 2026. They think they can say whatever they need to say to get through the primary, then flip the script for the general election, and nobody will notice or care. But the thing is, people do notice. Regular people watching at home, they might not be political operatives. They might not have a degree in communications, but they know when somebody is full of it. And they can feel it. And when you're sitting there on television getting exposed by your own words from 6 months ago, everybody watching learns the same lesson at the same time. This person will say anything to win, or they're full of sugar, honey, iced tea, or shit, right?
Tim in Georgia, which party do you plan to vote for in November?
I'm a little bit confused on that right now, because the Democrats have lost their mind. This is insanity what is going on. You're sitting here and telling me that the United States of America is going to have a socialist party that is going to be running the country? What military? I did 11 years, and as a disabled veteran, I would never join the military and fight for a socialist republic. This is insanity. So now I'm thinking I have to vote Republican to stop this from going on.
Is all in a new Marquette poll and a widening lead for Francesca Hong, the Democratic Socialist, in this Democratic primary. Let's bring in Charles Franklin, the director of the Marquette Law School poll. You are a busy man. 2 weeks, 2 polls. What is the revelation in this brand new poll out today?
I think the big headline is that Hong has expanded her lead from where it was a week ago to 38% now from 26% last week. And if you put in the people who lean to a candidate, that goes up to 46%. She's up across the board in every demographic.
So as we look at this, yes, there are 34% undecided, but this is a 22-point lead now between the #1 candidate and the #2 candidate. The other three, David Crowley, Joel Brennan, Kelder Royce, all in single digits. We're less than 2 weeks out. Can any of these candidates catch up to, or at least what we're seeing from this snapshot?
What I think is lacking on the folks that aren't for Hong is that they've not consolidated around anyone. Mandela Barnes is consistently in second place, but fairly distant second, and Crowley in third place, again, a good ways behind Barnes. So if there was a chance for the other candidates to sort of get a new competitor, I haven't seen that happening in these data. We just don't see anybody making a big move up except for Francesca Hong.
You're very close to Bernie Sanders. You've had a number of these very popular officials come out and campaign for you. You've also said that you're not a democratic socialist. You describe yourself as a capitalist who understands capitalism. I believe that's what you said last night in debate. But what is the difference? What are they getting wrong? I think this is confusing to a lot of people. What are they getting wrong about capitalism, or why don't you consider yourself a member of the Democratic Socialist movement, given your proximity and your relationship to all of these officials?
Because I'm simply not a socialist. I believe in science. You know, for me, it's you got to bring results. I've studied a lot of the solutions that I fight for, things like Medicare for all.
You once tweeted about defunding the police. And tonight you were asked whether you would sign that bill to defund the police, and you said no.
If anyone's been defunding the police, it's been Robin Voss and the Republicans who have not been adequately funding shared revenue. And you have seen that local governments have had to make very difficult decisions. And I believe that as governor, that we want to make sure that we're prioritizing public safety. And I believe that those types of bills that could include more investment in the things that we know prevent crime. If you want to be tough on crime, you better be tough on the causes.
Why do you believe that the police must fully
Because the reality of this moment and in the types of public safety systems that we have, I want us to be sensible and realistic, but we know now that the billions invested in the criminal legal system is not working. We are spending on incarcerating an individual more than tuition for UW-Madison. That, this is about making sure that local law enforcement is working with community, that we are taking resources from the state and investing in things like public education, victim services, out-of-school programs for our kids to go and have a great, be able to be themselves. These are things that data and facts have shown that prevent crime. Again, if you want to be tough on crime, you better be tough on causes.
Do you still long-term want to abolish police, but ultimately?
I believe that we have to be serious about public safety, and I'm going to be a governor that is more serious than anyone else in making sure that we are building systems of care, that we are focusing on lowering crime, getting guns off of our street.
And this is where the bigger conversation starts to come in, because this ain't just about one candidate having a bad interview. This is about a pattern we see across the board in American politics, especially from the left, where candidates talk one way to the audience and a completely different way to another. And they think nobody's keeping track. They think the average voter doesn't have access to the same information. But we live in 2026, family. Everybody has a phone. Everybody has YouTube. Everybody has the ability to pull up an old video footage in about 5 seconds. And you have AI, right? ChatGPT. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you don't want to get caught in a lie, the easiest solution is not to lie. It sounds simple because it is simple. But here's what happens when you build a campaign on saying whatever the room wants to hear. Eventually, those rooms overlap. Eventually, you're in a room where somebody recorded what you said in the other room, and then the mask comes off, and everybody sees that there was no mask. There was just a different face for every audience. Now, to be fair, both sides do this to some degree. I'm not going to sit here and pretend Republicans have never pandered or flipped positions, but the difference is frequency and severity. When you have a candidate calling themselves a socialist or a communist, which is what this candidate has done, then you go on Fox News and try to sound like a moderate, common sense American. That's not just a pivot, that's a full identity transplant. And the voters aren't stupid. They see it, they remember it. And when they get to the ballot box, that memory matters. And this ain't about being a fool or a clown in a circus, all right? This is about integrity in a broader sense. And when you say one thing and do another, the people around you eventually stop trusting you. It might take a month, it might take a year, but trust always catches up to inconsistency. And once trust is broken, it's really hard to build it back. Think about it like this. If a friend told you they had your back and then you found out they were talking behind yours to somebody else, would you ever really trust them the same way again? Probably not. I say trust someone until they give you a reason not to trust you if that's the case, right? However, trust is earned, and it'll be earned if that consistency of trust is upheld. Then there's no way to question, no reason to question it, because the consistency in the actions itself through love, which love is the action, will show you the ultimate way of how not only the respect they have in regards to the relationship, but also the trust they uphold by making sure that there's an understanding amongst each other. And trust is just knowing that at the end of the day, when you're not in the room, where this individual still operate in the way they should or would operate if you weren't in the room, the same way if you are in the room. And that's what these voters are feeling right now when they see these clips. They're not mad about policy differences. They're mad about being lied to, because she's a chameleon. She'll blend into one room to change her appearance or change how her approach is or what she's saying in another room when the other voters aren't out, because she's pandering, right? And they're mad about being treated like they're too dumb to notice. And that's what she's actually doing, treating individuals like they're stupid. And that's the real reason campaigns like this one implode. It's not the interview, it's not the reporter, it's not the network. It's really just the candidate.
And even yesterday, it looks like you will be the nominee, as another one of your closest competitors, who is even far behind you, has dropped out of the race. Is there anything in that list of what you told Hassan Piker that you disavow now?
No.
Okay. Is there anything in the DSA platform that you disagree with?
Yes.
Okay. What would that be?
Abolishing the Senate. I believe it's nonsensical and non-practical at this time.
Okay. Would you abolish the Supreme Court?
No.
And
Notice how she said at this time. She didn't say she agree entirely. She just disagree at this time. She didn't say she disagree entirely.
In checks and balances.
Okay. So you consider yourself a democratic socialist, is that correct?
Yes.
Would you defund the Department of War?
Define it? Well,
defund,
I think it's a
take away the money from the Defense Department?
No, I think it's troubling how many times they've failed an audit, and they're one of the highest funded agency. And I think that stewardship of taxpayer dollars is incredibly important, that where there may be fraud, waste, or abuse, that we make sure to vet the agency.
Okay. Would you advocate for public ownership of America's largest corporations, or those in Wisconsin?
I have to say, first of all, we are incredibly proud of our Green Bay Packers, a publicly owned NFL team. But I believe there are some manufacturing and corporation that is irresponsible to have full public control.
Well, like what?
No, I think it depends really on the type of mega corporation. We know that here in Wisconsin, we'd like to bring more middle manufacturing, that when jobs were sent overseas, when there was more desire for profit over the people of Wisconsin, that we can be selective and put working class people first when it comes to jobs and mega corporations.
Do you think you would be able to recruit corporations to come to Wisconsin to then be taken over by the state government?
No, I don't think that it would be responsible for the state to bring in a mega corporation that would potentially be run by the state. I think that we want to create good jobs with good benefits and ensure that people have the freedom to pursue the type of life they would like.
Is she a robot? Like she gives off this demonic energy that I can't fathom. Like, yo, what is she reading a script? Are you a robot? Like, what is going on here? The reality is the questions was, would you remove these things? She played word solid games and say, oh well, I'ma just point out an issue to totally absolve myself and change the topic. She's basically not answering the question in a way of deflecting by turning the conversation into the issue with the department, in which the reporter is just asking her, hey, would you remove the Department of War? She says, oh well, I think this is very concerning that they haven't had an audit right, and that all the money is going to this department, and this money is getting this Department of War is getting funded all of these monies, and it's very, quite frankly, that there's a problem with audited, the way it's being audited and not audited correctly. Would you remove it or would you not? That was the question. You can't sit there and talk about a problem in something that you consider removing. So what the hell are we talking about? First, we need to know if you even care to support that program, for you even to worry about it being running correctly and efficiently, and making sure that the monies is audited correctly. But if you don't care about it in its entirety and you want it erased, then what are we auditing? Because the monies will no longer go to it and it no longer exists. So the word salad, the pandering. Oh, we'll like the working class people and we would like manufacturing not to go overseas. Well, you could blame the Clintons for that because they done sold auto manufacturing and manufacturing businesses and sold them overseas for cheaper labor in exchange for cash for the United States. But the simple fact is, you're just going to skip over to working class people, but you're not even saying how you want these departments to exist or not exist. And that the simple fact is, if you receive these monies, what is the solution? The reporter is basically saying, if you want these monies to be basically reallocated, or you want some departments to exist or not exist, which we don't have a clear answer from her because she thinks we're stupid voters. The simple fact is this: what are you going to do with the money if you have more of it, if you don't want any of these programs that are highly effective and highly important to run a country? That's what we need to be getting down to. And that's how you're going to be able to mine her out. But see, she likes to tug on the heartstrings and talk about the working class people and talking about problems, but she's not coming with no solutions. You know how draining that is to deal with somebody that's always talking about problems with no damn solution in front of it? So you don't agree with your party to a certain extent, but you name yourself as a socialist, which is part of which is the Democratic Socialists of America. The committee, the movement in itself is a socialism movement. You are a socialist. So if you don't agree with certain parts of the socialism, then that turns into me to tell me that, hey, you may say you may disagree with some parts of some components of in the socialism movement, but however, that doesn't mean that you won't say, oh, I disagree because I actually, in the name of socialism, it is more communism that I'm more support of. So now she's asking you, are you looking to control these businesses and these manufacturing businesses within state control? Like the same, for example, with Zaran Mudami, who wants to have government run stores. Do you want these government run businesses like manufacturing business to be government ran, or no? Oh, well, working class people. Answer the fucking questions, man. You don't know how to answer no questions? So you just want to play around and just keep talking about working class people and how you're going to support working class people, but you haven't said a solution yet. You talked about problems. You talked about, oh, well, I don't agree at this time in regards of abolishing, the Senate or one of the branches of government. So you don't agree at this time. But who's to say you don't agree at all or disagree at all? So look, you either pick a side, you stand for something, you fall for anything. And it sounds to me that she's either looking for ignorant voters or voters that just want to hear what they want to hear. And it seems like she just want to cherry pick whatever she can throw at the wall and hopes it sticks and what people want to hear and just run with it. Because she never answered no question, but she talked about problems and talked about helping working class people. But then she's using the example of the manufacturing and jobs, but then she's not even explaining how it's going to be ran, because socialism, which is really socialism disguised as communism exactly for it to be specifically is because it's really communism, but they're saying socialism in the name of communism. I mean, they're saying socialism in the name of communism. So they're coming off as if they're socialists, but they're really communists because they want to control stuff based on the actions which you already see within the movement. Because if it wasn't communism, then they wouldn't be seeking so much control and erasing government control or the different branches of government. They don't want checks and balances. They want total control. So if you don't agree with certain components of socialism, which means equal for all, then that means the only thing next is you taking control entirely because you're naming problems like you can do better than what the government is doing based on your perspective. Because you're naming problems like you got all the solutions. Like you don't need all these branches of government, which the founding fathers knew we needed these branches of government. So individuals within our human nature, we are flawed to want to seek control, which shows you why they're saying socialism as an equal for all and working class people. And reality is they're actually attacking successful people, people who made something out of themselves, and they're basically they're still moving in a way of communism because now, I don't know if you have realized the Democratic Party is attacking people that have made a name for themselves and become successful and say, okay, well, you make so much. So we need to take the much that you make a certain amount and we need to spread it out to those who don't want to do nothing with themselves. And that's enabling. And the simple fact is, if you can control that within monies being allocated and you can control the successes of people and put a cap on it, which is basically getting rid of capitalism. And capitalism is just being able to succeed and scale your business up and make some out of yourself out of nothing as far as you want, which is the American dream. They want to get rid of that entirely and say, we want to put a limit on it and take from you and allocate to others. But if you don't agree with us, then that means those who basically don't want to make a name for themselves or do something with their lives, we have them in the name of government control where we can oppress and suppress them into bending into the way we want them to behave in the name of power to stay in power. It's dictatorship is what it is. They have these communism, Marxist beliefs in the name of regimes like Venezuela and Cuba with the Castros, and they're trying to come off sympathetic and empathetic, and they're trying to act like they care so much about working class people. But you see how far the deterioration of actually helping the working class people have been so far gone in the name of corruption, where they only enrich themselves and people just suffered more in the name of them enriching themselves through these programs that they so-called are helping the working class people for. How are you helping the working class people if you're having programs like, for example, with Minnesota, fake daycares and feeding our future, who's supposed to be feeding kids who unfortunately don't have enough food on the table during COVID, and you are not even feeding children, but you use that scandalous scheme to take money from taxpayers and never help nobody in the first place. So they use working class people as a guise to act like they're doing something so humanitarian or a humanitarian act when they're really not. They're just enriching themselves in the name of just having it look as though they're doing a good thing. And that's what they're doing. Now, forget the schemes and plots because the corruption's got exposed. Now they want to act like they're doing so many things humanitarian wise. And oh, the rich person, the wealthy person, the person who worked hard and became successful, they are the demon. They say white people are the demon. So they're dividing and using race and dividing the country with chaos. And people who worked hard and got off their behind, they're making them demons and taking from them and limiting their ability to grow to end up spreading, taking the growth and the hard work from something that someone else built and giving it to somebody who sits on their behind. And then what happens is I'm going to oppress those that sit on their behind because you should thank me and keep me in power because I'm the one that took for the demon, evil, successful people to help you because you don't want to do nothing with yourself. So you better vote for me or we're going to have a problem because that's when, like any other regime with dictators, if you don't listen or you don't abide, they take away what they gave in the name of government control. All right. So I'm just passionately getting frustrated because she's sitting here with these big ass eyes lying. That's just the truth.
And I think when I talk to voters all across the state, it is so much about being able to take care of themselves and their loved ones. There is deep concern about people who get to age with dignity in our state. I care a lot about our seniors and making sure that we're one of the states where there's a great opportunity for great public education.
Okay, so you say
Yeah, our seniors who have been victims of ballot harvesting.
people want to take care of themselves, and I agree, but the socialist program is for the government to take care of people. And
Exactly. In the name of oppression and control.
I know that you've bristled a little bit about anyone pointing out previous things that you have said, but I just want to show everybody on the board here. This is some of your far left posts. I would say they're pretty far left, right? It's, for example, you say abolish the Senate. You want ICE out of Wisconsin. I understand the abolishing ICE is something you probably still want, but you also said to defund the police 4 times. And you want to defund the police as a first step towards abolishing the police. Now, President Trump won Wisconsin twice. It is the ultimate purple state. I set my novel there for a reason. It is the place where you have to have the most appeal to both sides or to independent voters. Why shouldn't people take you at your word when you say that you want to defund the police and go towards abolishing it?
Dana, first of all, I have to say thank you so much for featuring my home state in your novel. And I believe that as a democratic socialist, what that means is that I would like to put working class people first.
I'm telling you, boy, they like scripted robots, boy. I'm telling you, she's like a different version of a Kamala Harris in a different variety. I'm telling you, it's like a variety of Kamala Harris's in the Democratic Party that just speak in circles. She don't have an answer. That's just the reality of it. And the simple fact is, when you really look at it, they want to abolish the Senate. They want to basically abolish ICE, and they want open borders because the simple fact is, for those who they can't control, who think for themselves and see the game that they're playing in the name of government control that they won't allow, they will just get others that will actually go along with the get along because they're getting handouts in the name of government handouts, which they just want to enlarge their pool of individuals that's going to basically abide by what they want in the name of government control to stay in power. Because if you do have ICE and you do have laws that actually have processes on how to efficiently and effectively run a government, you don't just let anybody in the country. The simple fact is they know the majority and most of all of the United States of the Americas, we the people, do not agree with this. So what happens is they have to change not only the United States of American culture, the Western culture, the whole identity of this country and the founding of this country. They just want to take it all, rip the page out the book, forget the Constitution, because the simple fact is they know the American people don't agree with this. So the only way to stay in control is in the name of government control and government handouts. They basically want to suppress the American values and American people, in which the majority of American people don't agree with this, and bring in new people that will abide to override and discredit the American people who worked hard, lived in this country, from this country, and basically just disrespect its identity in its entirety and remix and rechange the whole identity so it's no longer the true values of American culture. Right? Because if you don't have a voter, if you don't have a group of people that agree with you to get you elected or stay keep you in power, they think, okay, well, we just control everything and then we'll just get a new group of people. It's that simple. That's why they want open borders. The same way they had illegals voting or non-citizens voting when they shouldn't have been. So every non-citizen that voted discredited every American and legal immigrant who came over here and done the right thing in this country. But they continue to use your tax dollars, though. They continue to basically pour and just use all your tax dollars and just rinse it into all these corrupt programs to enrich themselves like water. They're just pouring all of your tax dollars wherever they want.
Over
how does defunding the police put working class people first? I mean, I think that you're about to enter into a general election, likely with Tom Tiffany, the Republican. That's not going to be an easy race. It's going to be very easy for people to put up on the board and say, you said abolish the Senate, defund the police, abolish the police. And why should they not believe that you would want to do that you would try to do that if you became governor?
I believe that people can evolve. We need Trump voters from previous elections who now would like to vote for me, who have a sign in their yard.
So who needs to evolve, the voter
the
or
governor
you?
cannot defund the police, and I won't defund the police.
So
but
you
I will
have evolved.
invest in the things we know prevent crime, like getting guns off of our street, making sure there is victims for justice, that there are, places where our kids can go after school and thrive. We can't be tough on causes. We have to be tough on causes if we would like to be tough on crime. And as governor, I cannot defund the police, and I've reminded folks that I won't defund the police.
Okay. Well, that will be it'll be something that your opponent brings up. Here's a poll from Marquette. Always a good poll. This is Tom Tiffany up at 43 to 40 if you put you two up together. He also has quite a fundraising.
The question is, if you felt like you evolved and you matured and the same way you had the energy to put out that you wanted to defund the police, why you didn't just say that earlier on? Now you're saying it because you're looking at the results and the outcome is in what you want. So now you're switching and you're changing face to say what you think people and believe what you're saying, what you believe people want you to say. So you're a liar. All right. You're a liar. And I'm going to say this in every video from now on until we get to the midterms. People, you better pray for this country. People, you better stop playing around. You better go vote. That's all I'm going to tell you. I'm not telling you what to think, how to think. You better make your voice be heard. And at the end of the day, pray for this country. Pray for the United States of America. These people been trying to override this country and bring their own ideologies and override and overtake and just remove American identity in itself. And look, American values, all right? The freedom and liberties that you have now, you better vote like your life depends on it because they don't care. The simple fact is, if you really look at it, our adversaries are the ones that are just in the name of socialism and communism now. Used to be other countries we used to compete just to uphold and strengthen ourselves to defend and let them know that we're not no joke. But now when you have the mainstream media and you have Chinese journalists and things like that that can easily fool the American people because the mainstream media had power for so long until Elon Musk came along and empowered the people to be able to see these truths and be able to speak to it and say these things honestly without being censored like you've seen in COVID time. The reality is that you have so many candidates and they're installing their candidates in the name of overriding and overtaking the United States of America in a different way, in a different fashion, while our adversary in another country like China and those in Venezuela and all of those. Why do you think Maduro is locked up? Oh, you want me to tell you why? Because when it comes to communism that you're now seeing, they're just out in the open with it now. They were behind the scenes actually messing with our polling machines and messing with our elections. And then you have someone like Hillary Clinton, who I feel said the most treasonous thing is, well, to steal the election and to win every election, we might as well just work with China. Who the hell works with a country that wants to override and overtake your country in any way, shape, or form by any day if they can? But the simple fact that we're so strong, we're so powerful, thank God, with the freedoms and liberties we have, and the things that you can be able to say here, even if we disagree. But if you go over China, and first of all, they won't even let you in China as American. They have their own way of protecting their country, and you won't just be able to say anything you want to say. And let alone when you look at it from Venezuela, and the things where they control the internet and can turn it on and off and basically only want their people to hear what they want them to hear. Why do you think that they want to install those things and remove the freedom and liberties in American culture? Because the simple fact is they want to install their thing in regards of how they've been running things in the name of communism and dictatorship and things like that, and bringing statements from previous regimes in socialism that never worked and shown over time throughout history. And now they're trying to remove American culture and remove American values and install that crap here. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care if you never voted before, you better vote like your life depends on it, because you do. And I'm not fear mongering at all. You better stop bullshitting around. I'm telling you, to anybody you need to pass this on, anybody you need to share this to. I'm telling you right now, I'm not telling you how to vote, what to vote, but you better vote. You better vote. You better vote. I'm telling you. So What we just watched was a masterclass in what happens when you build your political identity on sand instead of solid rock. When your foundation is based on whatever gets you the most applause in a moment, it only takes one strong win to knock everything down. In this case, that win came in the form of a reporter pressing play in an old video. And she may have thought those old posts have disappeared. She may have thought enough time had passed and nobody would ever bring them up again. But the internet remembers. The voters remember. And the receipts always have a way of finding their way back. And the Bible says in Numbers chapter 32, verse 23, be sure your sin will find you out. That scripture is straight to the point. You may be able to hide something for a season. You may be able to change your message, switch your position, or pretend the past never happened. But eventually the truth catches up with you. And that's the biggest lesson for all of us, not just politicians. Consistency matters. Your words matters. Your character matters. What you say when you think nobody's paying attention can eventually become what everybody hears. When the evidence comes out, the truth will either support your story or expose it. And for my non-spiritual family, here's the everyday life wisdom. Your track record is your real resume. That applies to relationships, business, leadership, your reputation, and every other area of your life. You can talk a big game today, but when your past actions directly contradict your present words, people are going to believe the track record every single time. Real credibility comes from being the same person in every room and not changing your personality, principles, or message depending on the audience. One person, one standard, one truth. That is how you build trust that actually lasts. Now, let me know what you think down in the comments. Hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, spread that peace, love, and positivity, and let the love supersede the hate, family. It's been people trying to take over the United States of America for a long time. The jealousy, the envy, and everything else. And that's just the truth. Catch you next one. Peace.